も、今日のプレゼンテーションイベント初の英語をちょっと交えてやってみるというトライアルなんですけれども、皆さんですね、英語ちょっと苦手かなみたいな方もいらっしゃるかなと思いまして、今日はディスカッションの時間は少し同時通訳の字幕のトライなんかもしますので、ちょっとそういったところもうまく使いながらみんなでサポートし合いながらやっていきたいなというふうに思っております。And then let me switch into English, and thank you for everyone to come to Toto Gallery and welcome to today's event, which is organized in conjunction with the current exhibition emerging architecture on ways, which is ongoing now here at Toto Gallery. And I'm Katariri from Toto. And first of all, I will try to give you a brief explanation about today's purpose and the schedule of today's event. And as many of you know, recently Expo has a lot of controversial and public criticism. And most of them are scanned based on the sliced information and being taken, out of context in a way. So in response to this kind of misunderstanding, we make this event, and this event aims to provide a platform for 20 teams of architecture who involved this expo and present their perspectives and share their stories directly to the audiences. And today's event will be conducted mainly in English, but if you are not confident in your English, please don't worry. As I said in Japanese, we will try to make subtitles in Japanese as well. And please don't worry. We want to proceed today's event with speakers support. So please feel free to ask your questions if you have in Japanese during the Q&A sessions. And if also to the speakers, if you have any difficulties, don't hesitate to speak in Japanese as well. And let's support each other. Yes. And then let me introduce today's speakers. Today's facilitator is Mr. Yutaro Muraji. And we welcome two teams of the exhibitors, Ms. Maki Onishi and Mr. Yuki Hakuda from Brazil. Mr. Shohei Kuma and Ms. Elsa Escobedo from Elsa. And additionally, we are pleased to welcome two guest speakers and Mr. Mitsuyoshi Miyazaki from Hariso Studio. And also Ms. Ryoko Iwase from Ryoko Iwase Studio. And also from the exhibitor, Mr. Kohei Kudo also participates to this event. And today we would like to start with the presentation by the exhibitors and then move to the discussions. Okay? Then I would like to pass my microphone to the speakers over Elsa. Okay?
Yeah, sure. So
then,
just
okay. Then let's get started.
Yeah, so First of all, thank you for letting me speak English, because my Japanese is really not good, so it wouldn't have been very productive. And so I'm going to start the timer as well to try not to take too long. To build this presentation, we picked up two of the keywords of today's topic, so resonating and accepting. But first, if this moves, first let me start showing some photos of the project, so we're sure that we're all talking about the same thing. So this is Kumanai's pavilion for the Expo. It's an all-gender toilet and rest space. And so the toilets are inside, and the rest space is on the roof, and we designed it as a water cycle pavilion. So it means the water comes down here to the roof, it goes into the water garden, which then throws it into the tanks where it's filtered, and then it's pumped back into the toilets, basically. So a few photos. This is the inside, the urinaries, and then when you go out, you can climb up the roof for the rest space. This is the water garden, view from the roof, and then again view from the roof. And so this pavilion has 60 toilets, so 37 are all-gender toilet booths, and there's 20 urinaries and 3 toilet booths for only women. And I think something a bit special about it actually is the site. The site, as you can see, is very, very close to the central forest, which makes it a very quiet site if you compare it to the areas close to the national pavilions, no? So first, let's talk about resonance. So I understand in this lecture or in this presentation we are talking about resonance in a figurative way, right? In a metaphorical way. But still, there's two things that I want to pick up from the literal definition of resonance. And these are that resonating means that something has a meaning for you, that something is important to you, right? And then there's this idea of producing or increasing or amplifying. And then I have to admit, when I was trying to imagine this, the example of dance came to me, because dance is a bit resonating with music, right? It's transforming it into space somehow. But we are not dancers, at least not me. So as architects, what do we want to resonate with? And this will allow us to explain why or why not we did want to participate in the Expo. We had doubts, I have to admit, especially me, because in the context of climate crisis, I really was wondering what's the meaning of participating in an event that's gonna produce so much waste, right, after 6 months. But Kuma told me, okay, do you want to stay all grumpy and just complaining in your corner, or do you want to actually do something productive with your work? And I have to admit, he's often right. So we decided to participate in the competition with a proposal that would reflect our doubts or our concerns. And we decided to apply to the toilets. So why the toilets? Because everyone has to use them at some point, and because we were interested in approaching in a slightly conceptual or maybe poetic way something, an equipment that's very basic, right? That's very down to earth. I want to mention two things that, among others, that inspired us. First, the work of SXL Lab at EPFL. They are focusing on, they are researching material reuse, and in particular the reuse of concrete rubble. And then, of course, our readings or our personal concerns. So in this case, because it's me talking, I share with you my favorite writer since I was a teenager, Simone de Beauvoir. And I think when she writes, one is not born, rather becomes a woman, she's really opening the door to understanding gender as a social construct. But we're architects, right? So how does this translate into design, or how do we go with these ideas beyond concept and we try to transform them into spatial qualities? And for us, I think the answer would be with teamwork. Because I think we want to talk as much as resonating with ideas as resonating with people, with colleagues and with their disciplines. And we are lucky, we have really a dream team of landscape designers, engineers, constructors, graphic designers, researchers, activists that are participating in this project, and that all bit contributed to the different aspects of the project that I'm going to be talking about now. So first, reuse becoming a character of the space, and this was clearly thanks to the work of Inoue-san, our structure engineer, and Azuma Kensetsu, the constructor, and Rebuilding Center Japan. We were advised, if you want to do easy reuse, you cannot make holes on the timber cladding, because in this case otherwise you have to recut everything and it's a nightmare. So okay, we decided to use small timber blocks to fix them, and this means when you want to, they sort of clips the boards, right? So when you want to deconstruct, you just remove the small blocks and you can directly reuse the timber boards. And in my opinion, this ends up becoming one of the main characteristics or one of the main features of the building. Then second, I want to talk about the work of Stan Pratjel, who is a Swiss thermal engineer and who, in my opinion, managed to turn a functional space toilet, right, into a sort of climatic refuge through the thermal strategies. Why? Because I think he enhanced the natural chimney effect of the shape of the building. Especially he helped us designing these openings that you see at the top part of the building. So basically the pavilion is like an open air shed. There's really no mechanical ventilation at all, and but still it feels quite cool. And this is a photo of my family and friends, because obviously I cannot take photos of random people in a toilet. So, but actually we saw many people actually sitting there and chatting, just because it was cooler than outside. And I find this quite funny because it's a toilet. So, and then finally I want to talk about how the all-gender approach was, in my opinion, a way to maximize the project, thanks to the work of the advice of Hattori Neishi and Iwamoto Sensei, and the work of Angelica Barco from ANG Studio. First, I want to please let me say that we are not at all saying like we think all gender toilets should be the future of toilets. Now all toilets have to be all gender. Not at all. We think it's a very, very subtle topic, and it really has to be handled on a case-by-case basis, right? But in this case, it actually, in our opinion, worked quite well in terms of architecture. Why? Because thanks to not dividing the space between men and women, we were able to come up with a quite compact plan that allows a very simple, as you can see on the drawing, a very simple one-way circulation. And this is quite useful to handle the crowds at the Expo, the huge amount of people that are going to be using the space. Plus, it allows to fit 60 toilets, which is not a small amount of toilets, and a water garden and a rest space. But of course, we were aware of the polemics and all the fear around the all-gender space. So we knew the space had to be super clear and had to feel very easy to use. So that's why we wanted to work with Angelica Barco. She's a graphic designer from Bilbao, from Spain. And she designed 3 layers of signage, so tapes that we sticked on different surfaces of the project. And the black one is for everyone, basically. The white one is for the all-gender toilet booths, and the green one is for the urinaries. And she also took a step back, and she sort of suggested the slogan, as a bit as a metaphor of the project. We are all fish in one water, and well, this talks about cycles, right? It talks about the cycle of the water, it talks about the cycle of the materials, and of course the cycle of humans, regardless the gender. And in my opinion, this is a good example, in my opinion, of how teamwork, members of the team can resonate together and end up giving a lot of coherence to the project and improving it and bringing it to really a better place, in my opinion. Actually, it turns out that the toilets were better accepted than we expected. And I want to just finish talking about acceptance, right? The other part of the topic of today, accepting others, because when you look at the definition, accepting or accept means to agree to something. So it implies some choice. And I have to admit, I wonder, as architects, do we really have the choice of accepting others, right? Because, for example, I was thinking, when we deliver a building or a space, whether we want it or not, the space it belongs to the users, and they do pretty much what they want with it. And in a way, it's a bit stressful. but it's also to me part of the beauty of our work. And for example, I want to talk about this. So we spent like everyone 2 years, right, designing this building, but we never realized what we were actually designing. It's a huge, massive slide. So of course, when the expo opened and the kids saw it, they used it as a slide, obviously. But it doesn't matter. I mean, we adjusted the signage because we cannot let people use it as a slide with the stones. But I find it fascinating that we thought about all the things that could go wrong, and we were so worried about so many things, but we never thought about this, never. And also, so this is maybe a surprise more to me than to Kuma, I don't know. But I also never thought I would see people napping under the parasols. And it was not like short 5 minutes power nap, right? No, really. It was like long hours afternoon nap. So I don't know if it's to me it's very exotic, maybe, I don't know. But I have to admit I was quite happy to see that people were sleeping in our building. And arigato, thank you very much.
Hi. Good evening, everyone. We are of class 8, and today's lecture, the title is Architecture Like a Living Creature. We had been trying to make an architecture like a living creature since our beginning of our study. Actually, this is our first project in 2005, maybe 2005, and it's a weekend house in a forest, and we tried to make a house like a deer in a forest. We tried to make a house standing in a forest like a deer. So for us, regarding architecture as a living creature is an important issue to make a different relationship between human and architecture. So this is our project in the Expo. Our building, the function is resting space, and it looks like this. And our inspiration came from Pao in Mongol, because as Elsa-san said, the Expo building is a temporary building, so we tried to get an image from temporary architecture, and we found Geru is really interesting because it really looks like a living creature. And we now the Geru is covered by white textile, but the old Pao is covered by sometimes like wooden skin, or king's Pao is covered by fur of the animals, and it's easy to bring and easy to build, and it is really connected to the land, and it looks like it's standing with its own will. So this is our project. The function is a resting space, and we also have toilets behind, and also we have some a kind of a hospital space.
Our site is here, and program is a resting space and the toilet, and the government's resting space,
Police, a kind of a police office,
and a kind of small clinic.
Information center が新建
そうですね。And the information center. Yeah. Here. We have information center, and in order to cut the cost, we made this part with a
prefab
box, and we made the resting space with textile and steel structure. This is the inside view. And architecture as a living creature means architecture inspires our five senses, and we try to make a resting space which inspires our five senses. So in the middle we have a big net space, and cool air comes from the bottom, and if you stay there, it's really comfortable.
This roof was made by textile.
Abundant textile. It is they are given by Osaka company, textile company, and they don't use them anymore. So we try to use them. So each amount of the textile is so different. And some, it looks like a very beautiful gradation, but some textiles are dry, but some textiles are dark, and some textiles are a bit dark red, something like that. But we put all together to make a beautiful gradation. And we put this textile one by one by hand. With the help of many students, and also Shinko Sangyo-san, who is a really nice contractor in Ichinomiya, and also Taiyo Kogyo-san also helped us to make this beautiful tent roof. This is how we made this tent. It's really quick. Almost a few hours. We brought this textile at the site, and we pulled up in the air, and then done. And this is the final view from the Fujimoto-san's room.
これは入れるべきじゃなかったよね。いや。じゃあジェスチャーで頑張る。
This diagram is a normal
Structural diagram.
Circle is a very strong, but our pavilion ring like this, but it seems like weak, but there is a good point. In this diagram, the roof, all roof sections like this, but if the wind force comes here, this shape won't.
Yeah, actually our site is with heavy wind, because it's close to the sea.
But in this diagram, there is a two sections here. One is like this, another is like this. Both direction. This pavilion can accept both direction of force. It's very reasonable.
はい、こんな感じかな。これは難しいから。少し。それも難しい。これはいいけど、これだし。
This is structural membrane. They put the abundant textile here.
Yeah, usually the roof material is usually hard, but we use right, as a material. So when wind comes, it moves like a living creature. So that's why we try to use this material, because we feel Expo is an experimental place. We can challenge the new things. So we try to use this soft material as the finish.
Center of this pavilion, we make the hammock resting space, and this skin is mesh, and cool air comes like this and very slowly. So cool air stay like a pond. People can dive the hammock.
Because it's half outdoor space and it's really crazy to air condition all the space. So we try to make a kind of a cool pond in the middle of the resting space, and people can come inside and lie on the hammock, and then everyone can see the beautiful sunlight through the textile, and the textile is wavy. This is how we try to feel.
He is mechanical engineer.
We did experiment if it really cool air stays there. This is after the completion. And actually, we were imagining people are lying there and relaxed, have a relaxed to see the sunlight and feel the wind from the sea. But actually, after the completion, many children came here and jumping every day, and actually we were really happy about that. And after the completion, after the beginning of the Expo, we make it reinforced to use here as a playground. And this is our last slide, and at night it looks like a light lantern. And this is what we made. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. Good evening. Before we start the discussion, I'd like to briefly introduce myself. So my name is Yuta Raja. I'm an architect. Running a non-profit architectural firm called CHAR, and also leading a company called Atkamata, which is a company operating area revitalization projects around south of Tokyo, and also recently teaching at Average University. So anyway, thank you very much for the presentation. Is this going well? Wow, good. Right, so yeah, I think it's working. とにかく感謝してました。Anyway, so thank you for the presentation. Before we dive deep into today's discussion, I would like to briefly outline the purpose and intention of today's talk. So rather talking about each of the individual projects or the style of architect, we would like to use the work of the Expo as a lens to think about how architecture relates to the society. So if we think Expo as a kind of a mirror that reflects today's society, by sharing the experience through the Expo, I think we can learn and discuss many things about how architects could relate to today's society, which is very complex, and we have many difficulty that we are now facing today. So and as Oda-san mentioned, since there is no any English native speaker, we have to help each other to make this discussion productive. And don't hesitate to use Japanese if you want to be more precise. We can maybe use both English and Japanese. And maybe for the audience, we would also summarize in Japanese sometimes at certain points if we need it. So I don't know how the discussion goes, but we will use Japanese if needed. Is it going well? Okay, great, thank you. Starbucks. Okay, so good. We would like to start the discussion. I think I would ask a very basic question to O+H, and then we will get some comments from our guest today. So I understood the motivation why you joined the Expo from Commander Ose-san, but I haven't heard the motivation why you joined the competition and also the Expo from O+H. So I'd like to start the discussion by asking a question. So do you want to start?
Okay. Because this expo is our first expo after we became an architect. Because before, in Japan, we had the IT expo in, I don't know, but at that time we were a student. And this is our first timing after we became an architect. So that's why we tried to challenge. And I think 3 years ago we attended Venice Biennale, and we found it really wonderful to share our idea with many people from many countries. And so Expo met from many countries, and many people come to share the time and space. So I think it has a big potential. That's why we try to attend the Expo.
San, do you want to add something?
ちょっと試しに日本語で
Okay.
これがうまくいくからね。
大事。
あれうまくいくか。万博は賛否両論あるっていうのは参加する前から持っていたんですけども、やっぱり参加して内側からその万博の是非っていうものをやっぱ捉えたかったっていうのがあります。もう一つはいろんなことがネットとかフィジカルな空間じゃなくても経験できるっていうのができる世の中になった時にやっぱ万博って本当に時間と空間を共有するっていうお祭りだから、そこでどういうことが今の時代にできるのかなっていうのは見てみたいっていうのがあります。いけてるのかな？
Okay, maybe afterwards you can share the experience of the expo. So yeah, before we dive deep into the discussion, maybe Miyazaki-san or Iwase-san, you can start giving us some comments. Anything is okay about the presentation, about the expo itself, some kind of discussion that you want to address today. Anything's okay, so
Okay, I will start. Should I briefly explain who I am, or just should I explain who I am, or
okay,
just,
go on.
yeah?
Basically, I'm an architect and based in Tokyo, and making the project, the feature of my studio is covering multiple areas from architecture and landscape, and teaching architecture at Kyoto University also. And I, as a
No, you don't have to worry.
right, I don't care.
I'm on the phone. I'm very happy.
Okay, thank you. As an architect, I personally wanted to join the competition, but unfortunately, one of the jury is my colleague at the university, so I was the person who couldn't join the competition. So I also had an idea of motivation, like Hyakuda-san. I wanted to see like what is Expo from inside, but unfortunately I couldn't join. But anyway, thank you for your presentation. And I don't know where to start, but
Did you visit the expo?
right, yeah. In September, beginning of September, I joined. I visited there, and it was a really hot day, and I didn't prepare anything. But because of the very interesting 20 project, I could enjoy the experience of the expo, because most of the pavilion I couldn't join inside without any reservations. So at least I could understand that this series of the project made me enjoy the story around the site at least.
Yeah.
And should I keep or?
If you have any topic that you want to discuss today, please.
Yeah, I mean, I also wanted to discuss more in detail about what you found and what you got as a benefit, or what was, how do you say, what you acquired through the expo, because I felt from the outside as an architect I knew your project because of the competition, but unfortunately because of the public criticism, I guess you guys couldn't have a voice to the society, and you felt you didn't have so many opportunities to publish your project, and I think it was really tough days, right? So this is something I guess it's very different situation from what you expected, I guess. I mean, なんでしょう、参加するモチベーションとしていろんなことを考えて参加したと思うんですけど、実際結構批評だったり辛い状況があって発表の機会だったりそういう機会を奪われて、でとはいえ実際そういう中で得られたことだったりそういうものが次につながっていくのがどういうことだったのかっていうのはレポート性っていう意味でもすごい興味あるなとは思って今日はここにおります。
Okay, thank you very much. So maybe after getting comments from Miyazaki-san, we will discuss about those kind of what was the learning and findings from through the work and the process of Expo. Thank you very much. So maybe Miyazaki-san, do you want to start?
Yes, hi. I am Tsuyoshi Miyazaki from Hagiso, the first. Basically, I'm based in Tokyo, especially Yanaka area. It's kind of the northeast side of the Tokyo. And actually, I'm almost the same age with Ori-san and Hyakuda-san, but a bit older than. It's the same university. So yeah. Then from my career, I started with one abandoned apartment called Hagiso. It's kind of the name of the building originally in Yanaka. It was the residence of our school age. But after the earthquake of the 2011, we had a funeral of this building because it's going to be torn down by the landowner because they really care about if there is some huge earthquake in Tokyo, they couldn't keep their responsibility. So this is why we had a funeral of the building as like an art event. After that, in 2 months, there's more than 1,500 guests in there. So all that have been changed their mind. So we started manage our by ourselves in this building. So we and the owner renovate together. We pay for each other. So then we just started from the 2013. So it's almost 20 years after starting. Then we are working as an architect as well, and also we also manage several abandoned houses in the Yanaka area, and we have almost 7 places in here. So at the same time, we manage in design at the same time. Then this is my introduction. Actually, I also went to the Expo in May after the Golden Week with my kids, 2 kids, and my wife. So actually, my honestly enjoyed so much. but we just have only 1 day, so I could go around the whole entire area. So I went actually the Onsen pavilion. So unfortunately I couldn't go to the myself one. So I felt first my feeling on the Expo is kind of the something like a huge gigantic sushi roll. And wrapped up with the one envelope, and so many things together inside, and so dense, and so but I really moved with the especially view from the big roof, right? Grand roof. But at the same time, it seems like the density of so many kinds of the buildings, they, especially in pavilion of each countries, they claim there are so many huge message of only themselves. So each pavilions want to express themselves, but nobody care about the neighbors. I saw. So the wrapped up with the sushi roll to the one figure, but I felt it kind of a lack of the neighborliness. So, but as Shakura-san said, I also think Expo is kind of the experiment of the in the real space. So it's not only the internet or something. So we don't. The main experiment is of Expo is can be kind of the spatial, and the who is a neighbor is quite important. So in the world, it is quite difficult. We can feel so many difficulty with the relationship with the neighbors. Right? So it could be the kind of the experiment of the for the six months or something, in the kind of the trial of the neighbor. But if there, I don't know the detail, but after the start of the Expo, there are so many communication with the neighbors, right? But there are several times after before the making, maybe people can discuss about what can we do with the neighbor or something we can cooperate with each other or something. I want to ask is there any this kind of communication with your neighbors in the site, or only one is a kind of edges of the ground, but then I want to know that if there is a kind of communication with them or not, or do you have any possibilities of kind of this?
Okay, thank you very much. So ちょっと日本語で予約します。
そうだね。
簡単に
そうですね。そうですね。行って楽しかったんだけど、すっごいでっかい統合性はサイトとしてはすごく感じて、それが気持ちよさでもあったんですけど、なんていうかこう一つにまとめるっていうのはあるけど、それぞれのこの近接性とか、お隣さんっていうかアジエセンティスっていうか、お隣さんとの関係性みたいなものがみんな自分のことを主張してるけど、なんかあんまり感じられなかった。でそういうことに関してでもそれってすごく今日的なテーマになり得ることだし、リアル空間でやることの意味ってそういうことなんじゃないのって思うんですけど、結局こう、多様性という名のもとに全部ラップされちゃってるっていうことに対する、少し疑問があったと。なんでそういう逆に言うとそういうエピソードが僕は見えてないものがあったのか、そういう話。
Okay, thank you very much. So I think now we have two questions that we need to think about. One is about what was the findings and learnings through the Expo, and also you can mention about the design process. So I heard that the only context was the brand roofing by Fujimoto-san, and you know about who is next to you, but you don't know about the specific design and no communication between other designers and architects, right? So maybe you can also share about what was the design process like in terms of communicating with other designers and architects. So, I don't know, any comments about that?
About the communication, we had communication with 20 young architects after our competition, but it was not, we didn't discuss about the context, or we didn't collaborate actually, but and we didn't talk with someone who is designing a pavilion around us.
So basically you were isolated to each other and communication about design?
No.
No?
So usually when we design an architecture, the context is really important to us, and we try to make an architecture that fits to the land. But as you mentioned, on this side we don't have much context. We don't have any context actually. And but we have land, and we have sunlight and wind, and that's what we wanted to respond, and also the sea.
How was the relation between the ground roofing and also you mentioned about the center forest, right? So I think, there should be some kind of context that you can, catch and, reflect to your design. So of course you can think about the wind and sun, but also I think there's certain, context that we can discuss. How do you think?
Unfortunately, our site was same site as the competition phase. So that's why, from the beginning, our project faced to that central forest.
この2組だけちょっと特別で、コンペティションが変わってないんです。
So the 18 architects, they have changed the site, but these two architects, it was the same.
すごく状況は変わってないまま選ばれてるから、ちょっと状況がね、ちょっと若干違うかもしれない。そこから言ってごらんなさい。
For the competition, we divided two sides, and we choose one side to make a proposal. And after the competition, 20 architects are selected, and almost all the aspects.
Every project,
Yeah.
Then actually, it means that you selected this site, right? So maybe you can give us some comments and about what you thought about the this specific site, because you selected, right?
藤本さん、深津さん、select this idea. So, very fit idea.
But also the architect themselves, they selected the site, so there was the both sides.
Yeah.
So could you share what was the reason why you selected this specific site?
First of all, we thought that toilet is like most, I don't know.
Basic.
Yeah, basic or. Yeah, and we thought it's very interesting. The toilet related with natural source. It means water and all gender things. So it's quite, like a current social topic we already have. So and after we, this site faced to the central forest, and the tree is, alive by water. So that's why we thought it's very interesting connection with building and the forest, and both are related with water. So our rooftop idea, we can see the first we can see from the rooftop we can see the water garden, and then we can see the forest, which is the alive because of the water. So I thought our this bit life circulation type of idea is visible in the one scenery. It's very, we thought it's very meaningful.
No, I agree.
That's good. So, any comments about from Oblast, the reason why you selected this site? Actually, it's outside of the ring, not inside. And I think that this could be one of the topics we can discuss today, where we talk about the theme, embracing, accepting, this kind of question. So could you share with us the reason why you selected this specific site?
Because this resting space is the biggest. So
you
after competition, the site in that is close to the center. That site is very, I think, better than this site. But after we found, but we selected this site designer, so we cannot choose.
But we didn't notice this site is so far. Really far. After the beginning, we found from the gate it's really far.
And we think we can see this pavilion from the ring, but after ring section like this, so people cannot see from the ring.
But actually after everything, I like this site. Not actually many people are staying here, but not too crowded. And almost all the site in personal context. But with this site we have the seat, and we have the width, and we have many things to respond.
Do you have any comments about?
Actually, when I went to Expo, the Komata Kun was the same office we are from the Texas Kids office, so he invited me to this one. So the Komata's
this one.
Komata's one is next to me.
Oh, just beside.
Right? So Komata's one is torrent. And then only some Opera's H1 is also have a torrent. So I felt why it's going to be adjacent plate site and almost wrapped and covered for the same function. So, but if it's kind of someone decided that, but if there is some conversation with the commentators and open sessions, there's some possibilities to connect each other or something. So I thought this kind of.
So was it possible to do that kind of change in terms of the design, like connecting each other, or was it quite difficult to communicate and reflect the feedback from each other? How do you think? Because Miyazaki-san thought there is no any shared context between these two projects. I think that's the question. So, are there any comments about the relation between these two things?
I think it was possible if we had a chance to discuss, or if we had a chance to collaborate. I think it was possible to connect the two pavilions together. But actually, what Yoshida-san said, what we learned from the Expo, we learned how to behave, as an architect, how to design in this festival field, and I think so. I think this kind of festival field, each pavilion should, I don't know should become like a flower, one flower, and each flower come together, and then we can make a kind of a fruit. So each pavilion is freestanding but strong and a bit fancy. And also we need to respond to the requirement of the society, and we try to do something experimental and something like that. But we didn't actually, for this project, we didn't start with Komoda-san if we can connect each other. But we tried to make an architecture which is freestanding and beautiful.
I don't want to claim about the attitude of each architect, but it's kind of because of the framework of the entire Expo's attitude, right? So it's kind of the like a bouquet. I think because of it's kind of a lot of the time before starting the work, it's kind of quite difficult to have a communication with the others. But the team is kind of the others, right? Or stranger with the resonate with the stranger with others. So to this kind of topic or problem of the whole entire world needs need a conversation with the adjacent people or adjacent countries or something, right? So if I thought there's some possibilities of the approach of the Expo itself.
Through the last discussion, Komuro-san mentioned that the lack of urban design in the Expo, so you have this massive grand roof ring as a very strong structure of the venue, but actually in the urban design level, there was no any strategy or communication. And I also heard that every 2 months you have this gathering and meeting with other 20 architects. So, I think when we think about today's topic and embracing, accepting, communicating with others, I think, those kind of questions we need to discuss. Also would like to know what you think about the Grand Roof Ring by Fujimoto-san, because, well, I was quite surprised that many of the young architects, they were positive about the ring. And I totally agree in the physical level. So if you go up the elevated pathway, you have this fantastic view. Under the pathway, you have these shades and people using the space very nicely. So in the physical level, I agree. But when we think about, the social structure level, not the physical structure, but the social structure level, it creates inside and the outside, right? And the message of this ring is that, it's trying to make people feel that the world is unified. But actually, it's creating an illusion that people feel that we are embraced. But actually, it's creating outside and inside. And so there's this, because of this circular form, it is creating a very strong exclusion in the venue. So I want to, know what you think about the Grand Roof Ring. It relates to the question from Miyazaki-san. So, are there any comments about the ring and also like the urban design of the Expo?
I can go.
Yeah, you can go, please.
Well, 難しい first of all. I think it's not easy, but I think with everything that has something to do with the Expo, it's always very ambivalent, right? Very difficult to say good or bad, or I like or I dislike, or this. Looks like a therapy session, but it's
actually it is a therapy
it's
session,
still like
so it's very important.
But because on one hand, also when I was going to the construction site and I was seeing this huge ring, I was thinking, wow, this is crazy. This is really insane in this context nowadays to be spending so much energy to build this. What are our priorities? I really felt a bit existential crisis, honestly. But I have to admit, when I saw it finished, I understood what one architect said. I forgot the name, but you remember, I think, which is it gives a bit of context to everything we are seeing. So I don't know if it unifies. I didn't feel it unified, as you just said. I am not sure it doesn't.
That's the message from Fujimoto-san. The reason why we need the ring. That's the very important message by Fujimoto-san.
But me personally, I don't necessarily understand the unify thing, but I do feel it makes us be all together in contact, which is quite, when you think about it, quite a metaphor of the world. We are all in contact, and sometimes we like each other, and sometimes no. So, do I think it's a bit crazy and it has this symbolical, I agree with you, this inside and outside thing? Yes. But I also recognize that it's very strong in giving a sense of place in locating, right? Each pavilion, which, as you were saying, each pavilion is like a heterotopia, no? You're outside of everywhere. And suddenly you have this context, so it sort of locates the experience of the Expo. So I cannot be yes or no.
Actually, I'm mentioning this every time in the session, but if you look at this publication, on the last page we have the Grand Roof Ring photograph, the image, right? If you look closely, so the work by O+H is cut off on the page. And actually, Komuro-san and Kondo-san's project is out of the image. So this kind of tendency to make, this unified, very strong structure using circle, making inside and outside, make people feel, it creates the illusion that we are kind of unified, but actually many things is cut off physically from the page. So I would like to ask what, how you think about this, very strong context realizing in 21st century in the field like Expo?
Actually, I agree with Elsa-san. When I visited the construction site, during the construction period, I feel every time I visit the site, I feel really a bit sad because it almost looks like the end of the world. Yeah, nothing is there, and it's like a the end of the dystopia. I felt, and at that time I couldn't agree with Fujimoto-san's ring. It's almost like abandoned already, and but I have to admit after the Expo opened, so many people are enjoying the ring, and one day I saw children walking on the ring and say "Yahoo!" and because they can see the other people are walking the other side of the ring, and it was really rare scene for me to see, and many people are sitting under the ring, and with so many people I had to admit this ring is really nice. But if I were a Fujimoto-san, I won't make a ring because I feel it's a bit too strong for me, and I want to make a bit more bigger thing, and I want to. I think it's important to unite or to make some kind of for the whole thing. Like to make a world is important, but the ring is a bit too strong for me. I think if I were an architect to design something like that, I want to propose which is more generous, I think, and which is more generous, and everyone can join, or everyone can maybe fix, or everyone can change, or everyone can respond more.
Represent, you want to add some comments?
これはすいません、日本語で言ってくださいね。藤本さんのリング、やっぱり大西が言ってるように計画とか建設の時には本当にこれを作る必要性があるのかみたいなことを思ってたんですけど、できてみるとやっぱりこうみんなが自由に行けるみたいな、いつでも行ける、みんなが自由に行けて、でいろんな使い方をしてる光景見ていいなっていうふうに思って、でその状況が京都の鴨川みたいな感じだなっていうのをちょっと思って、万博行っていろんなパビリオンを見るけど、その万博行ったって感覚って全部のパビリオンを見ていっても生まれないかもしれなくて、京都行っていろんなお寺見て帰るだけでも京都のなんか全体像って生まれないけども、鴨川に出た瞬間に京都に来たっていう感覚、空間的感覚っていうのが生まれる。でそういうのをなんかリングはやっぱり作ってる。いろんなことが点でバラバラにそれぞれが好き勝手やってるんだけれども、それが集合したっていう風景をなんか見せてくれるっていうのはやっぱりリングの価値かなっていうふうに。でリングがやっぱ完結性が高いっていうのをすごい思って、なんかこれは万博だけじゃなくて普段の僕の建築やる時もそうなんですけど、何かルールを作る時って内側には統制がすごく働くから、そのルールがあるんだけど多様っていう時にはもうちょっと大きななんていうのかな、ものによってルールがちょっと歪むみたいな状況を作んないとなんか多様な感じがします。だからもしリークがあるとすると、 より大きなものって考えると、本当はその土地のコンテクストだったりとか、もしこれを恒久的に残すとか、100年インフラになるとか、そういうことを考えたときにリングがもしかしたら開いてる可能性があったかもしれないし、内と外を作らないようなことにも考えていくかもしれないかなっていうのは話を聞くと。
Thank you. Iwase-san, do you want to give us some comments about the discussion?
Personally, I enjoy the link. Yeah, and that might be good point and bad point as well, because I felt really Wing was amazing in a way, but I mean I felt very amazing in a sense the Wing was have a variation of the section that is supporting the circulation, and some part was, as you mentioned, like the neighborhood wise, like the link sometimes functioning as a kind of waiting area for the other pavilions, and that was actually well organized, I felt, as a planning wise. So I felt really amazing, and more than compared to what I felt, because like as a planning level, I felt really, how do you say, the circular shape is difficult to control the budget, because he kind of needs this comprehensive form, so it's difficult to shrink the budget because he cannot adjust. So I was suspicious about planning wise, but it was really amazing. But on the other side, like for example, what I wanted to ask you in addition is, what do you think about the framework of the competition itself? Because, I mean, as Onishi-san said, like the flower and bouquet framework is, if I were a competitor, I kind of like accept and I kind of follow, and I will dance on that stage. But on the other side, competition framework is kind of creating this, exaggerating this flower, strong flower. So making competition for 20 sites, already creating the, how do you say, the certain goal by Fujimoto-san, created by the goal with this 20 flower idea. So to be honest, like before joining the competition, I mean I couldn't join, but I was doubting this framework itself, because like もしこの20人の建築家に20個の土地を選ばせて、参加させるっていうコンペのフレームワーク自体がコンペに選ばれなければいけないっていう状況において、何かこうなんていうんだろう、一言で分かるコンセプトだったり、分かりやすい何か華やかさとかがどうしてもこう戦略的には絶対求められるし、自分がもしすごい何か街に根ざした建築を普段やってても、なんか今ここに街の文脈持ってきても難しいみたいな、なんかそうだから結構そのコンペそのもののデザインが、そういうものをリングとは別の次元で強化しているっていうこともなんかちょっと気にはなっていたんですよ。そのあたりはちょっと if I want to ask you about this.
I was sort of favorable with the exhibition. This exhibition was consistent with the icons of each pavilion, each turrets also. So icon, it can be iconic architecture. So, but the framework itself needs to be the iconic, right? So yeah. It is what we of course learn on the way, but at the same today I think we don't need to emphasize the differences of each other. There are not only difference, but we can cooperate on something to unite each other, but not only one big umbrella, but also so a little bit. I think that this discussion is a little bit different with the I wanted to say, but because I'm not disagree with the gigantic roof itself, but I thought the roughness of the each relative relationship. It's kind of the composition of the neighbors. So I think if there is some design of the time scale of the before starting the design of each other, it can be there are some possibilities of something like that. So this is what I wanted to say.
So yeah, so looking back all the design process of the expo, are there any feedback, based on Miyazaki-san's and Wase-san's question? Like, was it possible not to be iconic, or was it more, was it possible to have some kind of relation between each other and to, make some more unified kind of atmosphere? What do you think? Go on.
How to say? It's just. I guess it would have been possible, right? I mean, no one said we couldn't, but personally, we didn't have the idea. Same with the site of Hattori-san is super close to ours, and we didn't have the idea of communicating in terms of design. So we could have decided, but we didn't do it. But at the same time, I had the chance to go to 2 expos before this one when I was quite young, and it's just it felt exactly the same way as this one, like a collection of, as you said, sort of things, iconic things that feels, like, I don't know how to say, like a park with many foliage inside, no? So I think I guess it would have been so difficult to create a proper co-construction or a real participation, no, in this context. I'm not sure how much it was really possible. And I have to admit, maybe I sold my soul to evil when I decided to participate in the expo. But I mean, like, no, how to say, in a way, we know it's a bit like this expo, right? So, of course, I guess it would be. I do think it would be very interesting to think about how expo can evolve and what does it mean in the 21st century, and collaboration, or as Rem Koolhaas said the other day at his lecture in Fukuoka, should there be a typology for an optimistic expo and a pessimistic expo? I don't know, but right now the expo is this. So if we decide to participate, in a way, we cannot be naive. I think. No, I don't know if you want to be less pessimistic than that.
In the design process, we didn't communicate with other architects, but fortunately, we faced to the huge landscape, means central forest, and our project is located in the edge of the forest. And we had some bit communication with Fujimoto-san and other landscape designer, and I think it was a bit, to me, it was a bit impressive moment, and because there is a pond inside of the central forest, and we explained our water garden is like a hidden water garden in the forest, and they suggested to cover our building by trees, or this type of communication was quite impressive because they care very small detail in the huge site. So, but I think it's quite required a lot of energy to work for this. So, and I also have the same doubt, not only as Iwase-san, that it's always like a competition requires idea for competition. So modest approach or like very simple things, even if it's wrong, it's right, it's difficult to have a confidence to suggest. So I think it might be better to, how to say, find someone like adjusting between like architect and architect. Or I mean this third role which we don't have now.
The project itself of the Expo, I think it was super hard work, realizing the project itself is already a kind of a miracle. Yes, so I forgot to say congratulations of the materialization of the project. But the two architects today, you're showing that it's not that simple discussing the Expo, like there's this negative side and also the positive side, right? And looking the Expo from inside, I think you had some chance to be more critical in some way. I don't know, like as this both guests today, giving some comments, like, there's this very iconic, isolated, freestanding object, but was it, you could be possible, you could be more critic about, collaborating each other, showing some kind of solidarity between the different architects. And I think that kind of attitude also relates to the meaning why we need to hold this kind of national event in the 21st century. So again, talking about the meaning or the value of the Expo, how do you think about how do you think about being more critical about the framework itself? Japanese is also.
Yeah, one thing is maybe you saw usually the pavilion in the Expo, architects can only design the facade wrapping, and inside is completely different and no relationship between each other. And so I think these 20 projects try to fight with the spaces. I think the first thing is not only the wrapping, but also we are trying to make architecture, and also with the architecture we try to say something. That is what we try to be critical about the Expo, and also when we see the Expo, we どこまで遡って批評するかっていうのが結構やっぱり問われる。From, for example, should the site be here? Or yeah, this is a fundamental question. Should the site be here? We feel, or should the size of the Expo would be like this, or should we do the Expo? Yeah, we can start from many points. Yeah, but so we are almost at the end of the decision. But as you said, even from here, what we can criticize, that is the important thing, I think.
I don't want to be mean, but since this is a discussion, I will ask a kind of a tricky question. So I think the Expo itself, including the grand roof ring and also these toilets and resting space, it kind of masks the complexity and difficulty that our society is now facing today. Yeah, many political questions around Expo, and there's so many discommunication between different people who have different backgrounds, and this kind of festival and kind of the joyful unified atmosphere masks the this kind of question, and it's easy that wow, I am enjoying this. The expo is so nice, and I don't want to be mean, but you are kind of contributing to that kind of tendency by realizing fabulous output as an architect. So we'd like to know what you think about this kind of thing.
This is really like therapy, actually.
Oh yeah.
It's really- so yes, I agree with you in one way because I think the same thing. But at the same time, because also we are critical, and you can count on me to be critical to many things. I'm French, so voilà. Also, I would like to highlight that we had very good stakeholders. I mean, we really one thing is the expo organizer or whatever, but the people that we were working with from the expo, they really fought for things that were not necessarily politically correct, like for example, the gender toilet. Until 1 week before the opening, we were not sure there wouldn't be a wall separating girls and boys, right? But there were people working there who defended our project and defended what we thought was important, and so it's not everything is bad. And I'm probably saying this in order not to be depressed, but I do think it's this. I thought it's a very there's people who had the courage to defend things that were not easy to defend. My impression, especially in Japan. And then second, I have to admit also, just before the opening, when I saw a man, I think he was from, I don't know, Emirates or something, but he was dressed with a very traditional suit, and I saw him using an all-gender toilet without worrying at all what gender he is not, or I thought, this is interesting. So it's a micro event, I agree it's a micro event, but bon, it's not nothing, I think, in my opinion. I don't know if you want to go.
Yeah, I also agree with you, and it works as a mask. Also, I mean, our project also. But we are doing with the experimental things or testing the society. So I mean, this case like a bit without optimistic or like a bit fake good mood. I'm not sure like how people can try like this experimental thing. So I think in the society it might be good to have this type of moment to do unusual things.
Any comments?
すみません。ちょっと無理じゃない万博がその半年間やって、またその更地に戻った時に、こうカジノの下地を作ってたっていうことだとすると、すごくもうそれでいいのかっていう気がして、だからやっぱそのみんながここに来て半年間何かする。で、それはもうそれぞれが思い思いにやってるんだけれども、同時に終わった後になんか知らず知らず土地を耕してたとか、なんか環境が全体良くなったとか、なんかそういうことがないと、これからの先の万博って難しいんじゃないかなっていうか、だからこのイベントをやって何をこう遺産としてその場所に残すのかみたいなこととセットで考えないとちょっとダメかなっていうふうに。で、もう一つやっぱ土地を分けてそれぞれが好きなことをやるっていうことと、でも何か統一感を作りたいっていうのって結構設計ではすごい根本的な問題っていうか、だから それってこう計画の概念っていうものを変わっていくきっかけかもしれなくて、どっかでなんか切断をして、でそこからなんか構築するっていうようなアプローチじゃないと設計ができないっていうことなんだけど、そこの切断みたいなものをどんだけしなくてなんかどう構想できるのかなみたいなことはこの先の、課題になっているのか。で、今日はギャラバなんで、万博を見てそういう反省というか、そういう気づきがあったときに、ギャラマの展覧会のこの機会をいただいたときに、下の会場構成どうするのかって結構議論になって、20組のブースを分けて、それぞれが展示するっていうのは万博の方式みたいな。でもそれに対して強制的になんかテーマを決めてリングにはめるみたいな展覧会の方式もあったけれども、そうじゃないやり方をどうやったらできるのかっていうことで、ああいうこうちょっと分かりにくい展示になったかもしれない。それは緩いフレームだけあってみんながこう何か連帯をこう作れないかみたいな、それは計画されたものではなく作れないかっていうチャレンジだったのかなって思います。
What do you think? What was the legacy that you left in the Expo?
いや、それが難しい。
何が、どこにしたのでしょう。
いや、なんだろう。As Yuki said, if after the expo we have nothing left and casino comes, that is really, I think, terrible. Terrible. But even one pavilion is just a part of the whole thing. The one building can say something to the whole area. Some pavilions are saying something to not only standing on the side, but for example, Yamada-san's pavilion, I was walking through the site and suddenly I saw her colored pavilion, and I think it is responding to the surrounding pavilion. Like that, for example, Mandai-san's pavilion is circle. And I think that pavilion is freestanding, but I think the size and it is very close to the gate and it's standing not freely. It's responding with the surrounding area. Like that, even it is really same our usual situation. Usually we cannot design the whole city or whole area, but we can put something and then we can say something to the surroundings. And some pavilions are doing that, I think.
Okay, thank you. I think as an architect, you have some certain responsibility to think about what was the legacy and to continue the discussion. And since we have 30 minutes left, I would like to open the discussion to the audience. Are there any questions, comments? 日本語でも大丈夫ですので、もし質問などがあれば、あと、英語で進んでたところもあるので、ちょっとわからなかったこととかあれば、素朴な質問でもいいですし、コメントでもいいので、ぜひお願いしたいと思います。英語でももちろん結構です。日本語で全然結構です。カマさんがちょっとあれでじゃなくてトランスレ
Thank you for presentation. I wrote down in English because I'm a little nervous. So it was the first expo to be held in 50 years, and the theme of this year's expo was life, nature, and environment, or the use of materials. But I think if the next expo will be held in Japan again, what theme and architecture would be like? If you have a chance to design like Fujimoto-san, what should architecture be in the next expo? I mean, in Japan.
50 years later, or I don't know. Let's say 50 years later.
Well, I mean, it's been 55 years.
55.
The last expo.
Yeah.
And if it will be held in the future
Yeah.
in Japan, if you are alive,
Yeah.
I don't know if you're alive.
Bit old, but
Okay, so maybe question to Kuma-san and Yosa-san open the stage. Any comments? もし、仮に、今年のテーマが、命輝く未来のデザインっていうので、50年後とかにまた、50年後かわからないけど、また将来万博が開催されるとして、藤本さんみたいな、例えば立場になったときに、そもそもどういう万博のテーマが必要なのか、でどういう建築をその時、作る、求められると思いますかという質問です。It's a very difficult question.
It's interesting.
I think it's a nice question.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's very interesting. Yeah. So, or Iwase-san and Miyazaki-san, you can also be Fujimoto-san. So if you have any comments, you're also welcome. どうですか？
半年間一緒に住んでみるとか。
急に大喜利みたいな。大喜利って英語でなんていうのかな。
だから、
リビングトゥギャザー。
そう本当に世界各国の人がその場所に半年間リアルに住んでみるっていう。それを通してなんかこう考える。
Actually living together.
For a half year.
Yeah, that's quite something. Any idea?
No, I think it's a very good, sorry, it doesn't work. I think it's a super good question, but I don't know how to answer it honestly. Because I guess if we find a theme for the next expo in Japan, it's like finding a keyword or a theme for the future of architecture, right? And like apart from a joke or something, I really don't feel capable of defining what will happen next. So I don't know, but I do think it's a very interesting question.
I didn't ask it serious way. I just like, in a fun way.
I really don't know.
Can I I'm a serious guy, so let me change the question a little bit into a more kind of a serious question. So this expo, I heard that many young architects, they expected this field that they can do some kind of architectural experiment, to test something for the future, right? But actually, what Banpaku Kyoka expected was a, general, simple resting space and toilet. And so, there's this huge gap between the expectation and the reality, because since this kind of, framework, you are not allowed to promote as an architect. And, in terms of the public relation promotion and also the budget, the fee it's not appropriate. It's not the appropriate field to really examine those kind of things as an architect and designers. So if we think about the future society as an architect or designers, I think we need to kind of fix several things in terms of the framework itself, because we have to be more expected as an architect, but actually the reality is not like that. So how do you think about this reality as an architect and designers? What kind of thing we need to change to do something positive as an architect and designers? Do you have any ideas? Otherwise, we have new ideas and concepts, but as an architect, more digital kind of thing, internet and interface is more big, and architecture and real space is more less valued in some way.
Sorry, you mean like the context of project producing? What is the sorry? Can you? I didn't get exactly the question. Could you re-explain it?
So actually, the field itself, the project, the 20 project as a field, this is not appropriate field for new experiments, right? Because Banpaku Kyokai want a normal toilet, normal resting space, and you are not allowed to promote. You cannot even put your name as an architect. That is what I heard. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Me neither.
There is no explanation what was the challenge in terms of design and architecture. So like me as an architect, I can understand and we have this kind of space and I can hear your presentation. But if you are kind of a normal visitor, it's really hard to understand what was the challenge, what is the value of this architecture. So there's this huge gap between what you guys did and what is how this is promoted to the society. Right? So Fujimoto-san changed the framework a little bit in the surface level, but in the deeper level, actually the structure haven't changed, and it's not fit to what we want to do as an architect and designers.
If when we design a public building, we don't put our names. We don't put our names on the building, and we don't put any concepts on the building. But
I mean, it's not even on the booklet. I mean, of the expo, right?
no, I mean what I want to say is people would understand what we wanted to do if they visit.
Through
Through architecture. That is what we try to do. But as you said,
But the challenge is not about the physical level, like in terms of space. Like it's more about the recycling and like the collaboration. But all these names and challenges is not there is no explanation about those kind of challenges. It's true that if we visit, we feel the challenge in terms of space, but the more important thing is not in the venue.
I think it was okay to put some QR code to explain our concepts if we want. And
So you think the public relation between architect and the public is positive?
Me,
No,
I think it's positive.
Oh yeah?
Normal.
Because in your work, it's really hard to understand about the concept of the water. When I visited your project, I didn't understand about the water. I understood the gender-free concept, but about the water, no explanation, no information. So those kind of concept and about the collaboration with other stakeholders, it's really hard to understand those kind of challenges. So I don't think that kind of communication is not really working.
It's just I quite agree with what has been said. It's I guess it's reflecting about in general in architecture how much do we expect the user to know about this project in order to enjoy it or not, right? There's different levels of use of the space you can. So I have to admit that personally, I don't know you, I don't especially feel the need that everyone knows that the water goes to the roof and then to the toilet, or it might get a bit overwhelming as well, no? But I do think what you're saying, for example, it makes me think of the fact that actually in France, most of the people are not asking an architect to design their house, they're asking just a constructor. And it's true that this understanding the good things that design or architecture can bring, it's true that it might be a question in society, right, to produce a good quality space. But in this specific topic of explaining the concept of a project to someone who is using it, personally, I'm not shocked by the fact that it doesn't happen in the project site. But I guess if people want to know more, they can Google it, or I don't know, and I wasn't sure.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Okay, about the findings and do you want to ask them?
Maybe my question was a little bit too abstract, so maybe difficult to answer.
But what was the important findings and learnings you gained from
Because
the...
at least I was very impressed with this gallery not planning, sorry. From outside, I thought you guys have a struggle with connection to the public relationship, as Muraji-san said, because this is somehow like I felt from outside. And also from Nagayama-san, she also mentioned that you guys didn't have a specific opportunity to publish your work as you expected, like a Shinkenchiku as well, I guess. This is something like I heard, so I understood like maybe you had a struggle about that. If I make a question related to the first, if I go back to the first question, I made a question because I thought you might have a struggle or something very different from like what you expected from the beginning, but maybe not that much. なんていうんだろう、最初に期待して、万博に期待していたような参加の仕方っていうことから、なんかいろいろな社会的な状況に対して、なんか思ってたのと違ったんじゃないかなって外から見えていたっていうのが、私個人的にはあったし、なんか長山さんも、すごく面白いプロジェクトだったり、チャレンジングなことをしているけれども、発表の機会が奪われていることに対して、違和感を覚えてるっていうようなお話を聞いてたので、なんかそういう前提があった上で、なんか、外から見えてない、なんか中からの声ってどういうことなのかなっていうふうに聞いてみたかったっていうのが、シンプルなクエスチョンだったんですけど、なんかそこまでそんななんかこう違和感とか、そういうのがなかった たのかなって今のご回答を見てると思ったんですけど、それで認識としては合ってます。
Actually, because that was, what I tried to ask, because one of the concepts of the Expo was 未来社会の実験は the experimental field for the future society, right? That was one of the concepts of the Expo. But actually, again, if the competition was held and you joined, and actually you realized the building, the project. But in terms of the social relation, promotion, the budget, it's not actually appropriate field and framework for the real experiment and challenges, because you also have some kind of risk, right, as an architect and responsibility. But I don't think that kind of the framework itself doesn't fit to that kind of risk and challenges. So, what was the in the first point you imagined so many things, and in the end, were there any difference? Any gaps? No. 何もなかったっていうことだったかもしれないけど because
It's so, yeah, interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Also,
Actually, other session with other dialogue with other architects, actually they mentioned this kind of thing. They expected something, but in the end, it wasn't really like that. But here, the tension is quite different. So, I don't know.
yeah, I understood that it's like exhibiting your work here might be the kind of alternative opportunity. Design you guys design, how do you say, like you created, you changed the situation. This is something like I understood, but yeah. Maybe like a person to person, from person to person, like you might have a different opinion, but so then I come to
I think I and Elsa is quite negative to promote our project during the
Negative or
I mean, we are not so much energetic to
No.
let people know our project. I mean, during the design phase. So I remember some people have had a stress. I mean, we cannot post our project on social media, this type of thing in the design phase, but we are not so much mind.
When we change the the perspective, actually you are using public money, right? So as an architect, I think you have responsibility to claim what kind of challenge you did through the work of Expo, and what was the challenge, what was the meaning, what is the value of the work. So in those kind of perspective, I think you have some responsibility to claim this kind of message. And actually, in terms of again, social public relation, it was not really allowed. The freedom was really limited. That is what I felt.
What kind of freedom?
So the original question from the BSM was what was the simply final fruit you got after through the experience of the Expo, not only the money or not only your meansとかじゃなくて、what was the final you get with this project? Can be much more simple question.
Maybe more positive side.
To the thing of it's a public project, therefore, what's the outcome of it? I agree. I just wonder if the responsibility of explaining the outcome lies only on the architect, or it should be also organized by the organizer, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly,
is it because I'm sorry, but the Shinkenchiku, how many not architects are reading Shinkenchiku if we are talking about explaining, reuse, or so this is the first thing. And about the learnings, honestly, there's so many. I don't know about you, but we learned so much and we experienced like so many things that are going to be useful for the projects. And for example, in our case, like for example, we are quite close to this reuse laboratory at EPFL, and this feeding them, for example, with practical information about so what works, what doesn't work, what are the struggles, what are the limits, right? Or this knowledge basically that we have accumulated and that we have to find ways to I agree, transmit, or this is very important. And about how strict was the framework, or did we have freedom, or is Expo the place to experiment? I don't know really, but what only talking about us, there's a number of small challenges. I mean, if you put them at the scale of the world, it's very small challenges. But there's a number of challenges that were I don't know, where we tried to know all these people who were working. We tried to. I don't know if there was enough freedom, but we negotiated, right? Like in any project, you negotiate with the client or the stakeholders, or.
Any other comments? Since we are running out of time, we need to also wrap up the discussions. Maybe in Japanese. In English.
I will try.
Japanese is okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I feel very, very normal things. Sharing time and space is important, and that has many possibilities. Yes.
I almost felt the same thing because it was really surprise to me that so many people are coming to the Expo. Actually, because we are inside the Expo team, we are watching many criticisms from many people and rumor, and many people saying many things before the Expo, and but after the opening, so many people are coming to the Expo and enjoying the space, and I felt people want to share the space. I felt. After that, I also went to Onikuru, and so many people are coming to Onikuru to enjoy the public space. And we are now have cell phone, and we are living in a digital world. But many people are enjoying, and many people want to be together. That's what I felt when I went to the Expo, and architecture can do many things. Architecture can have more wonderful power to make the place for people to get together.
Thank you. Maybe final comments from Kuma-san?
I want to say something about what we run and find through Expo. And I really feel that project, the building was completed in last April. But we are questioning in the society, or like we are giving something, like asking new things through this experimental project. So, and during this Expo period, we hear a lot of opinion from a lawyer, or some sexual minority people or very unexpected people. So, and I think this is quite legacy to me, and we can continue to discuss and talk. And to me, it's like legacy is not just a physical object. So I think that this might be more important to continue to think. I think so.
Okay, thank you very much. Since it's now 8 would like to finish the session, but anyway, I praise and admire the output that you realized. But some of the comments about in the level of the framework and in the level of social structural level, I have some of the comments I disagree. So maybe we can continue the discussion for the future society and the architecture. So thank you very much. ありがとうございました。英語と日本語で両方行きましたけど、なんとかプロダクティブな会になったかと思います。はい、ありがとうございました。
Thank you for everyone, and thank you for joining us today. And actually, I have totally no idea what would happen in this event if we had an event in English. But thanks to all the speakers, we could see very meaningful discussion about the not only the Expo, but what would lead for the future and in architecture field. And I believe this platform would make sense, and we would like to continue for the future. And let me ここ最後日本語で少しご案内なんですけれども、ディスカッションを聞いて皆さんもう一回展覧会見たいなというふうに思われるかもしれないんですが、残念ながらトートギャラリーも本日8時で閉館ということになっておりますので、明日土曜日、明後日日曜日は開館しておりますので、ぜひ今日のディスカッションを聞いてもっと改めて5+1と熊田ゆるさんのプロジェクトを見たいと思われた方、明日、明後日ぜひもう一度お越しください。でそれからですね、今回のイベントは、東京理科大学西田司研究室の学生さんの皆さんにご協力いただきまして、撮影を行っております。で、編集した後に後日ウェブサイトで公開するということで、今ですね、ちょうど1回目のディスカッションが公開されています。なんかそちらも結構スリリングな話いろいろ出てくるかなというふうに思うので、ご興味持たれたらぜひそちらの方もご視聴いただければと思いますということで、じゃあちょっと、長くなりましたけれども、本日は皆さんどうもありがとうございました。もう一度